Welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Eastvale. My name is Molly Cortson, and I'm the city's communications officer. We are officially in season 2 of the podcast, and I'm super excited to have some great guests here today to kick off the season. Over here we have Gilbert Lucero. He is actually the general manager of our brand new Olive Garden. And then we also have Alexander Fung, who he was on season 1 last year. He is our economic development manager, and he's also like a season 1 favorite. He was on one of our most watched episodes, so I'm happy to have them back. But I guess we'll start the podcast by having them introduce themselves. So I'll pass it over to Gilbert first.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Gilbert Lucero, as she said. I'm the general manager of the first Olive Garden in Eastvale, California. I've been with Olive Garden 9 years now, and this is actually my 4th restaurant opening with Olive Garden, so I'm pretty excited to share that as well. And I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. Well, thanks for being here. Yeah. Where were your other restaurants that you opened?
This is my 9th Olive Garden that I worked at, but my 4th new restaurant opening. Okay. So I was in Modesto, California, Elk Grove, California, Tracy, California, and previously to this one was Visalia, California.
Oh my gosh. So you've been really all over.
Everywhere, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, thanks for being here. Alex, go ahead.
All right. Hi there. My name is Alex Fung. I'm the city's economic development manager. Really such a pleasure to be here. And a lot of people ask me what economic development is all about. And maybe I talked about this last time too, but it's really about bringing the community together and having everybody working together to increase the quality of life in a community. So it includes bringing businesses like Olive Gardens, and it includes working with our businesses to help them to thrive even more. And also there's a lot of fun special projects that I know maybe we'll touch a little bit on those later on. But yeah, it's always fun to be here. So
well, thank you for being here. Yes. Thank you for being here. And okay, be honest, have you ever seen an episode of the podcast?
The ones you sent me, yeah, I watched them. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we used to do like rapid fire questions at the end of the podcast, but we decided we're gonna like move some fun questions to the beginning to like get people engaged like early on. So I'm gonna ask you some get to know you questions. I know you haven't seen these yet, but they're gonna be like fun. So okay, first question: what is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you at Olive Garden?
Craziest thing that's happened to me at Olive Garden, besides COVID 2020 and having to shut down and the pandemic.
Okay, yeah, that's a biggie.
But probably just having a power outage in the middle of a dinner service.
Okay.
And having to figure out on the fly and then how everything's going to handle with the guests, with the food and everything like that. So that was a little crazy.
Okay, do you know, like estimated in a day, how many people are like coming in and out of Olive Garden? Like, do you know?
It depends on the day, honestly, but it can range anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so what's your go-to Olive Garden meal?
Oh, go-to Olive Garden meal. It's probably going to be our 5-cheese ziti al forno. It's a ziti pasta, and we bake it with 5-cheese marinara with 5 cheeses on top. 9 years later, I still eat that probably at least once a week, if not a lot more.
Okay, I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I love Olive Garden. Like, I genuinely do, and that's what I get every single time.
Really?
It's so good. Yeah. Like, and I think it's like a good reheatable meal too.
No, it honestly is. And we have this $6 take home. So sometimes when I don't want to cook dinner, I buy one of the $6 take homes to take home and just pop it in the microwave when I get home.
I love those. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay, last question. If you could have dinner with anybody, like anyone dead or alive, anyone in history, like who would you want to have dinner with?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I know.
Let's say probably Michelle Obama. She seems very insightful, and I like how she speaks, and she's very just open and honest and has a very big opinion about everything.
All right. Well, if we ever get her on the podcast, like I'll call you. You guys can be on the pod together.
We'll talk.
I'll email her.
So she's watching this.
Yeah, Michelle, if you're watching this, email us. Okay, thank you. Alex, questions for you. Okay, what's one thing that's like you've dealt with in this role that you never thought you would have to?
There are so many. Where do I even start?
I know.
I suppose maybe maybe having, nowadays kids are getting so smart now. So the other day there was like a 5 or 6 year old who asked me like a really complex questions about like not just economic developments, but it's like, oh, how does mixed use developments work? And I'm like,
from a 5-year-old.
Yeah, from like a 5 or 6 year old.
Why do you even know what that is? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, and then there's me kind of wondering, it's like, okay, how do I respond to this? Because I do know the technicalities of things, but it's like, I don't know how much like I can share with a kid without kind of overwhelming them. But that was obviously a very smart kid. But it's like, yeah, sometimes interactions with residents, they are always very interesting, and sometimes it's a fun experience too, especially dealing with kids and their fun questions. So,
Okay, good answer. Okay, last question for you. If you could swap lives with someone for the day, who would you want to swap lives with?
Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna go with a political answer for myself. I'm gonna swap life with my wife. So
Okay, I need some explanation. I need a lot of explanation, Alex.
so it's just like it's fun because the both of us like, oh, we know what we do, and we're so of course like we talk every day. We know so much about each other's lives, but I would really like to see it from her perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, just so that I can even get to know her more. Hopefully that's not a weird answer.
No. I think you and your wife are like the ultimate power couple. I really do. Like one day they're gonna be like ruling the world, I think. And I don't know, I hope you like give us a job in your cabinet or whatever you're doing one day. I want to be a part of it. So
Please.
okay. So I'm gonna get into the real questions now. I'm gonna start over here with Gilbert. So obviously you just opened your branch here just like a few months ago. So can you talk a little bit about what has your experience been with like the community, the residents, the chamber, the city, like working with everyone? It seems like your business has gone really successful really fast. Like all the times I've been in there, it's been really packed. Yeah. So can you just talk about like how has the community kind of come alongside you and supported you, and what has that been like for you?
Honestly, it's been great. So like I was saying earlier, I've opened other Olive Gardens before. This is my first opening that we've actually had the city and the chamber be so involved with the opening. Even during, I actually opened up the new Olive Garden in Elk Grove during 2020.
Okay.
And the city wasn't there with the businesses supporting and anything like that. But with Alex reaching out and the chamber, it's been really, really successful. Mm-hmm. The success, we've been open 10 weeks now, so it's awesome. And every single week it's getting better and better. Our staffing is amazing. We actually are the #1 retention Olive Garden for NROs. We hired 200 team members. We offered 200 jobs in the city.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been awesome. And we've retained all of them. So it's been really, really good.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. When we went to your grand opening, it was like so fun because all of the council was there. There was a lot of people there. Like the high school was there. There was a lot of people there, yeah. The chamber was there. Like everybody was there. And then like we went inside, we got some food. Like I felt like that was a really fun day.
Yeah.
And also I know that you guys are doing like special uniforms, right? Like different than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So can you touch on that?
Yeah, we're actually testing out uniforms for the entire company, and we're actually the only Olive Garden in the state of California with them.
Okay.
So obviously you've seen the bright new open modern concept Olive Garden, and we wanted to change our look with that as well. Mm-hmm. So we have new white uniforms with blue jeans, just more little lax, modern, casual. Mm-hmm. Our older uniforms were all black. You go to every restaurant nowadays, it's kind of like the all black. So we kind of wanted to like retheme and make ourselves still lively because we've been around now for 42 years. Mm-hmm. So we want to keep going and make sure that we don't get stale in the restaurant industry.
Yeah. I feel like our Olive Garden too it looks very fresh in there. Like it's very open, which I like because there's a lot of businesses that are kind of like, I mean, I don't know, both like serve a purpose, but there's times where it's like more intimate and kind of closed off in each section, but ours is so like open. And I feel like it's a good like family, open, like friendly, clean vibe.
Yeah, it honestly is. And this is the first concept that I've seen like this. There's only 3 of these in California. Mm-hmm. And I helped open the last one in Merced, but this one actually has less walls than the one in Merced.
Okay.
And it's more open concept. And we did it so it has that family atmosphere that you're in the dining with your family, but you still have that private, intimate with your own table and stuff like that as well. So it doesn't take away from that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then can you talk a little bit about what has it been like starting your business? Like, I mean, obviously you've started multiple in different cities, but like here in Eastvale, was it easier than you thought? Was it harder? Was it easier than other cities or harder? Like, what was it like coming to Eastvale specifically?
Yeah. So I handled more of the operational aspect of it. So my real estate team handles more of like the legalities of it. Yeah. But from my perspective, this was one of the smoothest openings. Just the communication with the city and the chamber and reaching out, offering help and guidance with everything. It's been really nice and supportive that we didn't have any delays on that aspect.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
That's good. Yeah. I'm glad that your transition here was smooth. And so I'll kind of jump over to Alex and talk about, obviously, we're always trying to attract businesses here to the city. So then once businesses are here, what are we kind of doing, or what's your team doing to like ensure the longevity of the business, to ensure their success long term?
Yeah, and I have to say I love your $6 takeouts too.
Yeah.
That was one of the most exciting things that for me. It's like, oh, I can now go to Olive Garden and get my takeouts. Like, do meal planning. Anyways.
Literally.
Planning Olive Garden.
But going back to your question, so and we are so privileged and honored to really be able to serve our businesses and be in this like wonderful city. Our city council, our city manager, our leadership is so invested in our business community and enhancing the quality of life. And one of the main things that we do is business retention, aside from business attraction. So this is one of the great things that our council did a couple of years back. And we do have this wonderful program called the Business Incentive Loan Program. It is catered to smaller and medium-sized businesses. Specifically, we, the council, and our city's leadership heard about how our residents want more restaurants like Olive Garden. So they created this Business Incentive Loan Program. So for new and sometimes existing upscale dining or premium casual dining restaurants, sometimes, and it will have to be approved by our city council, but they're eligible to apply for up to $100,000 in forgivable loans. Is pretty much to help them to, with business equipment or sometimes some of the capital expenditures. So it's just one of the ways that, from a local government's perspective, really providing more financial incentives for them to come. Aside from that, is like in partnership with the communications team, we also do business features for free on our city social media platforms and on our newsletters. All a business needs to have is to have a business registration with the city. And yeah, Molly's team does a great job at that. On top of that, we also do a lot of different fun programs like our monthly business walks. We make it a goal to check in with each and every one of our business, at least the ones in our shopping centers with a storefront, at least twice a year. So every month we spend a little bit of time just going out, dropping off informational materials, sometimes giveaways, but really checking in with the management of each of our stores to make sure they're doing well. So there's a lot more that I could go on. Yeah, but these are like some of the fun things that we do in economic development.
Yeah, and I'll say too, I have worked at 3 cities, and I think that our city does such a good job of just kind of supporting businesses, not like just when they're starting, but like checking in, like especially with the business walks. Like there were so many times where sometimes it gets so hot here in Eastvale, it'll be like 110 degrees, and like I see you guys like walking outside with all your stuff, and you're like, I'm gonna go visit the businesses, and I'm like, that is the Lord's work, because I would not want to be walking around right now in 110 degrees. But I think it's cool that I feel like we have such a close relationship with a lot of businesses, and like I'll see like the managers or the owners like come through all the time, and like they know us and we know them, and it's not just like we set it up in the beginning and we're like, bye, see you later, like see you never. I feel like we build relationships, and like we'll see you all the time for a long time, and I think that's like really good for everyone involved. But just props to your team, because I feel like you do that so exceptionally well. So
thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to jump back over to Gilbert. Yeah. I want to ask you, what is like a piece of advice, like maybe the most important advice you would offer someone who's like potentially starting a business in general or coming to Eastvale? Obviously, again, you've started a lot of businesses. So what would you offer to people listening to this, thinking about doing something?
Reach out to Alex. No, but in all honesty, reach out to the city, reach out to the chamber. If you're going in blind and you're not having that communication and building that partnership like the city of Eastvale is, you're not going to go very far. So how your loan forgiveness program and the city of Eastvale has that's a good incentive for businesses to come here, and it seems the growth, because you want, or how you were talking about earlier, you want to retain the businesses. And I feel like that's what businesses are, because people want to start up a new business, but how is that business going to survive? And I think the city of Eastvale helps them survive. Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad that you feel like we're here to support you. Of course, we always want to do that. So I'm going to jump back over to Alex again. I know it's a lot of like ping-ponging back and forth. But in economic development, we're doing like business attraction, retention, but there's also a lot of other things that you are doing. I'm sure going back to the question of like, what are things you do you never thought you would? I feel like everything I do, I never thought I would here, like this podcast, for instance, But what are some other projects that your team is doing, business related or not business related, that you're really passionate about and like excited about?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So, you know, City of Eastvale, we are the second youngest city in California, incorporated in 2010. But we're actually growing so rapidly, and that is an amazing thing. People want to be here, businesses want to be here, the retail market is doing well here. But then we're also running into an interesting challenge where we're actually starting to run out of land. We're more than 90% built out in the city already. So with just a couple of pieces of land left for new housing or new commercial developments, we're really working closely to figure out how can we strategically maximize the use of these sites, but not just from a financial perspective, but to fulfill our residents' needs. So something that we're really doing in the long term is we heard from the community, we want to bring in a community center, or we've heard suggestions for a senior center, aquatic center, more parks, pickleball courts.
And then there's with the pickleball.
Yeah.
What about the tennis?
And then, well, maybe there's going to be a dual use, who knows?
Yeah.
And then there are other suggestions about we need to bring more jobs to the city, and Olive Garden is definitely does an amazing job at bringing jobs and retaining the jobs in the city. But there were talks about, doing a corporate headquarters for some Inland Empire business. Or we also have medical needs. A lot of the times our residents have to drive 15 or 20 minutes out just to get to a hospital. Maybe bringing some of those medical services, at least imaging services or some of the light surgeries that can be done in Eastvale. And then other parts is education. We have an amazing high school with the Eastham Academy, which is great. But, there are talks about or suggestions about wanting to have a higher education institution or at least a remote campus to be here. So these are some of the long-term planning that we're doing about not just land use, partnering with different departments, but figuring out what is the highest and best use of each of these sites for our community. And then finally, we're also working with planning, working with public works to really achieve a vision for our Grand Park. So we worked with some students from UCLA for the past 2 years, and they brought in the visions of building a grand park in the city, activating the riverfront, and then there's some flood control land that perhaps we could take advantage of. We can't really build anything that is not housing, not commercial, but for flooding zones that can be turned into open space and park spaces. So we want to see if we can kind of make that vision come alive. It's not going to be in the next couple of years, probably in a decade or so, but a lot of these takes time to plan. So we're all working, aside from supporting our businesses, supporting our residents, those are always in the back of our mind, looking at planning, looking at funding sources, looking at grants. So hopefully that answers your question.
So while you guys are here, I wanted to ask you, our residents are always saying well, why don't we have this business? Or when will this come here? Why did you pick this business? But they don't understand sort of the relationship and the way that those things work. So when you were planning to come to Eastvale, or you guys were thinking about it or whatever, can you first touch on how did you make this happen? What was getting this off the ground and what was kind of the behind the scenes before anything even happened? And then can you talk about, again, just briefly, why are there specific businesses or why aren't there specific businesses here? So I don't know if you want to start first.
So I don't know exact specifics, but I know what we look for. We actually have a whole real estate development team, and they look at the economic development team at the cities, and they look at the 5 to 10 year plan of the city, what the city's doing, and how the city's developing. Is the city going to be successful? And not only will the city be successful, but how will the residents take us being there as well? Just because for us being a larger chain, will the city really accept of a larger chain coming in? Just because a lot of mom and pops places, some people like to support those a little bit more as well. But for us, we're kind of in a little bit of in between, just because we can run our Olive Garden in Eastvale for the city of Eastvale, not for anything else. So it's been really that. But we really dive into what the city can bring to the business as well, and if our investment will be returned on that as well. And that's why we chose the city of Eastvale, the fiscally responsible city. It's been really well.
Yeah, well, I think too, hearing that makes me excited. I'm sure it makes you excited too, because that's just confirmation that we're headed in the right direction. Obviously, the city is so young, and so we're trying to convince people no, this is a good option. We're on a good track, but until we have like the businesses buy-in, we can only go so far. So it's like exciting that you guys were looking into the city and you were saying like, yes, they are doing well and we have like a future here and there's longevity in the city, because I think that's just like confirmation for our team. So I'm glad you looked into it and you were excited. And it sounds like you came here because of Alex. So that's
it's
good.
Been really
so,
good.
Not because of me, because of the residents.
no, because of the city. But I mean, to look into the econ dev team and be like, who are they and can we work with them, and to feel good about that. Like, I think that's a big accomplishment. So, and then again, do you want to touch on, if Olive Garden in the beginning stages reaches out and says, we want to come to the city, or they're thinking about it, then what role do you play after they reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say in this hypothetical situation, Olive Garden is looking or already researched Eastvale. They love our demographics, want to find a site. So generally, the first stage of the conversations with the real estate team is, what's the square footage that you need? Are there specific locations or already some sites that, or some shopping centers or some streets that you'd like to be next to, or some freeway exits? And then another thing too is like, how many employees are you bringing? And there's a term called co-tenancy. Sometimes some businesses like to be next to other businesses that allow them to do even better. And then there's also another term called exclusionaries. So it's like businesses that they don't want to be next to. So sometimes those happens too. So literally this whole process that I'm describing right now is called site selection. So after finding a site, and sometimes during the process too, we will work with planning to make sure that it's like, hey, and planning and building to make sure that you got all, the process of obtaining permits, and something that we're very proud of, and it is not just econ dev, it's the entire city in general, is streamlining the permitting process, making it very easy, making the expectations very clear. In some other cities, it can take a while for businesses to navigate around different departments. And I'm just so grateful to be able to work with a team of amazing people here at the city, where a lot of things are streamlined, so it makes it easier for businesses to go through that process. So site selection is the first piece, and then helping them to understand the permits. And then simultaneously, we will also check in with the businesses to see what other resources that you need. Like if you need any hiring support, or if you're looking to do a grand opening. So there's a lot of resources out there, and I know we do a great job coordinating with our Eastvale Chamber of Commerce. Shout out to them to just coordinate some of the grand openings and really get the word out to our residents. Something that I really love about our chamber is that they do a wonderful job just inviting dignitaries, and I'm not just saying our city council. I'm saying state legislators and sometimes federal legislators for them to come in and present certificates and really recognize how important businesses are to our residents. And I could go on all day. And if you're a business or if you're a resident that is just interested in learning more about how the site selections or the process to bring your businesses in from start to finish, I'm always happy to have a conversation. So, but it is a very good question.
And I mean, thank you guys both for kind of touching on it, because we've talked about this on a lot of episodes, but I think our residents think oh, we want this business, just send them a text and they're going to come into the city, But, maybe it's they want to be here, but we don't have the right square footage, or they want to be here, but they are going to be next to something that they don't want to be next to, or maybe they don't want to be here even if we have the right resources and different things. There's so many elements and pieces that go into getting a business to the city, and I think we need to shed a lot of light on that for the residents, because again, they're what about this thing, or why did we get this? But it's such a long process. By the time the residents are hearing about it, it's probably been several years in the making. So it's never just a last minute second situation or decision. So.
Yeah, and sometimes with residents just asking is oh, how can they help out with bringing businesses in? And one of the easy things, and maybe not so easy, but one of the easy things that you can do as a resident is if you have contacts with a business that you really want to bring in. And if you know a manager there, please share the contact information with us, because it is much more easier to get to somebody and kind of at least let them know about Eastvale's markets or retail opportunities if we know a manager at a business. So your connections, your contacts are always greatly appreciated, and something that our team really lives by is, let's say we reach out to a certain business and they're not interested in coming in right now. We still check in with them every couple of months, because just because they said no now doesn't mean that it's always a no. Yeah, it could be their real estate expansion plans are like different, or it's the market conditions, the financing conditions are different. So just because they say no for the first couple of times, we're still going to be checking in with them. So we're determined and we don't give up. And if you have contacts, let us know. So.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you guys both so much for coming on the podcast and answering some questions and shedding light. Something I have to ask you, because one of our staff members specifically asked me to ask you. So I said that I would. Are there any like secret menu items at Olive Garden that like things we can order that aren't on the menu?
You can have whatever you want. So anything that you want, we can make it for you as long as we have the product inside the restaurant. So we have a lot of people that come in and try something new. We have our team trying something new every single day. I know people ask me all the time, do I get tired of Olive Garden? I don't. Just because even if it's not on the menu, we can still make it.
We can make it, the variety. Yeah, no, I was telling one of our team members, like, oh, the Olive Garden manager is coming on the podcast tomorrow. And he was like, please, like, ask this question. I thought it was going to be like some hard-hitting question. I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was like, maybe. And he was like, ask if there's secret menu items. He has like a whole family of kids. And he said that they like to go there all the time. Yeah. But he's like, we're always there. And like, I want to know if there's any like specialty things. So
no, we can make things all the time. Even if it's something that used to be on the menu that's maybe not on the menu anymore, we can make it. We're always constantly testing new items as well. So there might be new items coming out in the near future, but we'll see.
Yeah, I also have to say too, when I grew up like in the mountains, so there was no Olive Garden. And so then like when I moved down, I had it for like a few years, and then I kind of like forgot about it, I guess. I didn't eat it for a long time. And then I went to New York last year, and like randomly we went to this Olive Garden there. And I was like, I forgot, like, this, like, really hits, you know? And then we got one here in the city, and there's one in the city I live in, and now I'm, like, there all the time. And I'm like, I cannot believe I was sleeping on Olive Garden all these years.
It's addicting.
It's so good. And again, that 5-cheese, like, pasta situation, that's ruining my life. So, you know, but it's very good. So, anyway, I just want to thank you guys again for coming on the podcast. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add or touch on or share with the community while we're here.
No, I would just say definitely reach out to Alex. He said it earlier, 90% of the city is being built on. So if you want to come into the city of Eastvale, definitely reach out, just because space is limited.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah. And, you know, from our economic development team, we'll always make time for our businesses and also our residents. So please don't hesitate if you just have a question, or if you want to learn a little bit more about marketing or about financing, or just reach out. We're always happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, thank you again for the third time. And then thank you everyone who's tuned in for the first episode of season 2. It's so exciting. And thanks to everyone who tuned in for season 1 too. We had such a great year. It was our first year. We were just kind of going through the motions, trying to figure everything out. And now we're doing the podcast in-house. And so we're doing another year of learning. But I thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for giving us support and for the questions. If there's anyone you want to have on the podcast next year or this year, if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, then let us know. But we'll see you later. So thanks for tuning in. And we can all wave to the camera, say bye. So thanks, everyone. Bye.